Okay, so welcome everyone. This time I actually got a projector so I don't have to write as I'm talking. And I just want to encourage everyone, if you have any questions, to ask them. And I may say, oh, I'll answer that later, or I may answer it right away, depending on if that works a little bit better. So today we're going to focus on giving you the information that you need for the Spring Leaning Challenge. So information relating to what we recommend in terms of nutrition and food and sleep and stress and all the stuff that you need to lean out and to perform better. And we're also going to talk a little bit about kind of like the logistics of the challenge and the rules and how we're going to choose the winner and all of that kind of stuff.
Or winners.
Winners. Yeah, correct. So can everyone hear me okay? All right. And everyone can see. I'm going to apologize right up front that the theme that I chose for the little slideshow has a lot of, what's it called, capital letters in it. So I'm not yelling at you. I'm not trying to be rude or anything like that. That's just how it turned out. So we're going to be doing this for 6 weeks. And what we hope to see are improvements in health, fitness, and performance. So what's in it for you? What's in it for me? Why do this? So we hope that we're going to see leaning out, so lowered body fat. And what usually happens when the body fat gets lower is that people say, oh, I look more toned. And that's usually what people say when they come in. They're like, oh, I want to look more toned. And really, toned doesn't mean anything. All it means is that you have muscle and that you don't have that much fat covering the muscle and that you could actually see the muscle. So at least from our perspective. So we're going to look for that. You're also going to maybe see that your skin might look better, your hair might look better. We hope that you're going to feel better, so that you might be less tired, that your mood might be better, that your motivation might be better. Perform better. So we want to see that you are hitting your workouts even harder and performing even better than you were before. So in particular, you're probably going to see that things like pull-ups, body weight movements, those things are going to get easier if you don't have any extra weight to carry around. And so the benchmark that we're doing for this, we're not doing any like specific event for a workout at the beginning and the end. What we did is we actually programmed the Cindy workout this weekend, and we're going to program it again in 6 weeks. So if you're already a member at CFW, you get to do a workout. If you're not a member at CrossFit Winnipeg, I recommend that you give yourself a little workout to do this weekend. Maybe some burpees, maybe something that you can do at home, and then repeat it again at the end of the challenge, so that you have something to compare and you can see if you're performing better. Who did Cindy? Who's doing it tomorrow? Okay.
Maybe can we do it on Monday? Can't give you.
We'll see what we can do. Okay. So make sure that if you are doing Cindy, that you are keeping track not only of your reps, but also any modifications that you make. So if I'm doing push-ups and I'm only going like halfway down, and then the second time I go all the way down, you might see that your reps are different. So make sure you keep your standards exactly the same and your modifications exactly the same, so you can see if you're improving. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about what this challenge is not. What we're not trying to do here. So the reason that I sometimes worry a little bit about doing challenges is that people see it as like a quick fix. They're like, oh yeah, I'm going to do this for a month and my whole life is going to be awesome, and then I'm going to go back to drinking beer every day. No, this is not what we're trying to do, right? We are trying to build some healthy habits that you can take on into the rest of your life. This is also not a weight loss challenge. So even though we are weighing you if we're doing your measurements for the all-in challenge, we're only doing that so that we can get a body fat percentage. We really don't care about weight. I'll just give you a quick example. I've already measured about 20 people, maybe 30 people. And there are several people that I had already measured their body fat last year. And there's one person in particular who came in and said, oh my God, I'm 10 pounds heavier. I'm sure I'm going to be fatter or whatever. And she was 10 pounds heavier, but we measured her body fat, and she was actually 2% leaner. And then I asked her, well, how do your clothes fit? Well, actually, they fit really well. So that's one of the reasons that we're doing these measurements instead of looking at body weight. So a lot of you have been asking me that question. You've been asking me, well, what should be my goal? How much weight should I try to lose? What should be my goal weight? And the fact is, I can't necessarily tell you that unless we know more about, you know, how much muscle mass you have, how tall you are, all these other things, all these other factors. So I recommend that you look at how you feel and how you look, how your clothes fit. These are goals that are going to be, that will serve you much better than looking at the scale. So the other thing that I want to make sure of is that the competition doesn't get too cutthroat, because we have a big winner's pot for the all-in challenge. I think, what, 40 people in there right now? 45? Oh my God. Who can do the math? 45 times 30. That's how much money is up for grabs. So let's try to keep the competition friendly. Please. No cheating. 1350 is the pot. So I said if we had more than 20, that we would separate it. So we either have like a male, female, or we'll see kind of, or maybe 1 and 2. Yeah. Okay. The other thing that this is not going to be is easy. So it's definitely going to be worth it though. And even though I say, oh, it's not easy, it's also not as hard as a lot of other things that a lot of people do in their lives. It's probably not as hard as raising kids, and probably not as hard as, I don't know, getting off crack. I don't know. I'm trying to think, like, I don't know. I'm trying to think, like, there's a lot of things in life that are really hard to do. This is not going to be that hard, right? Like, we're lucky. We're lucky that we actually get to choose what we eat. So if you kind of put that into perspective, right, we're pretty lucky. Okay, so what is it then? If it's not a competition, and it's not cutthroat, and it's not a weight loss challenge, what is it? So I want you to view this as an experiment. Hey, this is going to be an experiment with the sample group being this group. Or in your case, n equals 1. So if you've ever heard of this concept of like n equals 1 experiment, is that you are figuring out what's going to work for you. So the only way that you're ever going to know, for example, if you're sensitive to dairy or to gluten, is to leave it out of your diet for a little while, and then you can always try to reintroduce it and see how your body likes it. But if you're having it every day, you're never going to know if you're going to react to it, right? So we're going to focus on 4 different kind of factors here. So we're going to focus on nutrition. We are going to look at increasing the quality of your sleep. We're going to try to manage stress a little bit better, because that's a huge, huge factor for weight loss. And those of you that I've already measured, and those of you that I will be measuring if you're doing the all-in challenge, you'll notice that on your little piece of paper, I'm going to give you priorities based on your body fat measurement. Perhaps I'm going to tell you that you need to focus on stress or managing stress, or perhaps I'm going to tell you that you need to focus on managing your blood sugar. So keep that in mind as we go through all of this stuff. And then working out, what kind of workouts are going to be your best bet when you are looking to lean out. Okay, so let's talk about the challenge itself. Okay, can I just get a hand count of who's doing all in? Wow.
It's easier to ask the other question.
Okay, who is doing the all in but also is going to do the points and logging everything? See, the winner will be one of these people. I'm just saying. Okay, but the more accountability, the better. And then who's doing just the points and the logging? You guys are going to get great results too. Okay, awesome. So 2 versions to the challenge, 6 weeks starting essentially, well, today/tomorrow, because tomorrow is the first day that we're going to start the blog, where we're going to be giving you tips, and you're going to have a space to write out all your food for the day and your points for the day. Going until, I don't remember the exact date, I want to say June 8th, which is the Saturday in 6 weeks, okay? So 6 weeks is a good amount of time to build some good habits. we are going to give everyone a score sheet. It is currently on the website, on the blog. You can download it. And on that score sheet, maybe I can actually show you guys where that is. So if you go to the CrossFit Winnipeg website, I know you can't really read that, but at least you can kind of see where it is. So if you go down to the sidebar under for members, we've set up the spring leaning blog. So this is where every day, if you want to log your food intake, you're going to be able to do that. And every day there's going to be a new little blog post, and there's going to be comments at the bottom, and you can actually log your points and your stuff in the comments section at the bottom right here. So I'm logged in right now. If you are not logged in, it's going to show right here. Okay, so this isn't the same login as you're using for Zen Planner for logging in for your classes. This is the blog login. So if you comment on your workouts, it's the same idea. Okay, so if you don't have a user though, you can just put in your email and create a password, and then it's going to let you comment and put your stuff on there. So on here, I also have the score sheet. So the score sheet is welcome to the spring leaning blog right here. All participants will receive the score sheet. We can give you some, we can maybe try to make some copies for you today. So every day you get a point for doing all of these things. And we're gonna go through them one by one. And whether you're doing the all-in or the points, I want this sheet for everyone at the end of the 6 weeks. Okay? So you put it on your fridge. Had a good day today, got lots of check marks. You can even put little stars or smiley faces there if you want. Okay, so let's go back to this. So for the all-in, you do have to get some measurements done. The measurements have been pretty busy. It takes 15 to 20 minutes to do the measurements. Is it pretty full for tomorrow?
Yes.
Today? So are there people who haven't gotten in yet?
Yes.
Okay. How about if we add a Monday time slot?
Yep.
6 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do 6 a.m. because I'm here all the way till 7 p.m. that night, or till 8 p.m. that night.
In the evening. But there's a few spots tomorrow yet, so you just pick one for tomorrow.
Okay.
And that's only till 3 tomorrow. Maybe you want to extend.
We can maybe extend it
a
tomorrow.
little bit.
Yeah. Or maybe start earlier tomorrow. Okay. So we'll do the measurements. When we do the measurements, what we do is we do body fat caliper measurements, and we also take pictures. And I just want you to know that we're not going to use the pictures for anything. I just know that at the end of the 6 weeks, everyone always regrets it if they don't see what the change. And so I can give you your pictures at the end of the challenge, and you get to see the difference. And you're never happy when you take the before pictures, but you're always happy when you take the after pictures and you get to compare with the before.
Is it all members that are doing it, or is there other?
It's open to anyone. Yep, anyone who wants to do it. Yep. Okay, so that's the before and after for the all-in. For the Get On Track Challenge, you don't have to book anything. You don't have to do any of that. We will have some prizes. Not as big, not cash like the other one. And you don't have to do measurements and you don't have to do photos. However, you do have to log your food intake and your points on the blog. We'll get to that in a little bit. Okay, so let's get right into it. What are we going to eat during this challenge? So this, I don't know if you guys can see that. You can't really see the writing, but that's okay because I can kind of, I need a little pointer. I wish I had like a little laser pointer. So food pyramid looks a little bit different than the Canada Food Guide food pyramid or food guide, whatever. It's not a pyramid anymore, is it?
Yeah.
Is it still a pyramid? Oh, in the States they changed it. It's like a plate or something now. Okay, so we are going to focus on making sure that we are getting good quality proteins in, okay? So, and a good variety of quality proteins. So what kind of things would qualify as that? We've got fish, we got poultry, we've got red meat, we could do beef, pork, we could do game meat, eggs. For the purposes of this challenge, we aren't going to consider other protein, like other, you know, vegetarian protein sources as protein, just for the purposes of this challenge, because the amount of protein that you're getting is significantly less. It's not complete, and you're going to be getting probably a lot of anti-nutrients and maybe more carbs than you probably want along with that protein. So we're going to be looking at mostly animal protein for the basis of our meals. We are going to do as many vegetables, fruits that you want to do as well. So that's going to be kind of the next part of our pyramid. Then we're also going to make sure that we're adding healthful fats. And we're going to talk about which ones are your best options in a little bit, but things like coconut oil, things like olive oil, things like avocado, these are all good sources of good fat. For the purposes of this challenge, okay, you guys are going to love me. We're going to allow butter. And there's reasoning behind that, because we are not going to do dairy as part of this challenge. However, most people, when they don't do well on dairy, it's usually because they are either sensitive to it, so slightly allergenic to it, and usually it's the proteins in the dairy that people react to. The other reason that we don't want to do dairy is that it's very insulinogenic, so it makes your body produce insulin. Basically has lactose, sugar, but it's really, really good for gaining weight. That's what dairy is the best for, is if you want to put on a lot of muscle, put on a lot of weight, get big, dairy's great for that. So most people, when they want to lean out, maybe that's not the right approach to take, right? And usually it's the combination of the milk sugar and the milk protein and the milk fat that has that growth effect. So with the butter, what's cool is that we're just doing the fat and we're just taking the protein and the sugar out of the equation. So that's why we're going to allow butter for this.
Are you going to allow whey protein?
No. We're going to get to that in a little bit, and I have reasoning for that. Yeah. So first of all, it is dairy. Secondly, it is quite processed. And thirdly, I think a lot of people become overly dependent on it. So we're going to try it for the purposes of this challenge. Don't worry, I'm not going to be like the whey police. I'm not going to be going around telling people not to eat it, but I do expect you to be honest on your points. Okay? All right. And then at the very top, I like that this has this. So you can't read this, but this talks about paleo baked treats. So there's going to be a lot of recipes floating around, because we're not doing grains, right? So these are the things that you're seeing missing from this pyramid, is you're not seeing any grains, you're not seeing any dairy, and you're not seeing any sugar. So what'll happen a lot of the time when people transition into this type of eating is they find like little replacements. So it's like, okay, well, I can't have brownies anymore, so I'm going to make paleo brownies, which is great, but see how tiny that little triangle is at the top? Okay, so that means no paleo brownies for breakfast. It's a treat. Okay. Okay, so I wrote a little note here. Everyone's different, so why would this work for everyone? And why are we choosing paleo? So did you notice that I didn't say that this is a paleo challenge, even though we are essentially going to base it on paleo? So paleo stands for Paleolithic, so the idea is like a caveman type diet. And a lot of the time, people will make the argument that people should eat like that because this is how the caveman ate, and perhaps there hasn't been enough evolutionary triggers for our bodies and our body chemistry to change enough for us to be handling all the new foods that we now have in the current diet. Sure, that's a good argument, but I think a much better argument is it works. And we've used it for many of our clients, and it works extremely well. And that's the reason that I'm going to encourage you to do that. The second reason that I'm encouraging this way of eating is that unless you guys are all coming in and getting food sensitivity tests done, getting your body fat measured, having like an actual diet plan made just for you, we have to come up with a system that's going to work for as many people as possible. And this tends to do that because it takes out most of the foods that people don't do well on. So, you know, a lot of people are lactose intolerant, a lot of people are gluten intolerant. So we fix all of those problems by trying to eat as clean as we can with paleo. Does that make sense why we choose this for a large group? Yeah. So even though everyone's a little different, you might find at the end that maybe you can do a little bit of dairy, or maybe you find that you can do maybe some rice or something like that, but rice is a grain. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna eliminate all of that. And then at the end, if you do wanna reintroduce it, you can try it. Okay, so let's look at kind of the whys behind, behind why we're not eating these things. So these are all the things that we're not going to allow during the challenge. I hate saying allow, because like I said, I'm not going to be like policing this, right? This is just because I want you guys to have good results.
Encourage.
Yes, encourage, suggest, recommend. So why are we taking out processed foods? Well, you guys have seen the ingredient list on this, right? So when we're talking about processed foods, we're looking at things like, you know, microwave dinners. You know, no, but we're even going to go as far as things like protein bars, things that are usually used as convenience foods. They're quite processed, and most of the time, in order to get them in the form that you can, like, you know, stick them in your pocket and eat them, they have to do all kinds of stuff to it, like, or they have to add a bunch of sugar just to make it edible, or else you wouldn't even be able to eat it, right? Because it would taste so horrible. So basically, we're just gonna try to eat things in as close to its natural state as humanly possible. Okay? Okay, why are we taking out sugar and sweeteners? So the main thing is that when people are trying to lose fat, what you have to understand is that insulin plays a big role in how your body stores fat. It's kind of the signaler that tells your body what to do with the calories that are coming in. And if your blood sugar is always high, then your body's always having to pump out insulin in order to get that back into its normal range. And what will happen is eventually you just kind of become immune to your own insulin. So that's insulin resistance. It's like the beginning of diabetes. And it creates addiction. And the consequence of that is basically your fat storage signals in your body just don't work very well. And so you end up storing more fat than you should. So we are going to eliminate basically any kind of refined sugar. So white sugar, brown sugar, cane juice, but we're also going to take it a step further. Artificial sweeteners, sucralose, aspartame, even natural sweeteners, stevia, honey. Okay, so no, this is really hard, and I understand it's hard, and it's hard because we're addicted to it, right? And it's not our fault. A lot of the time what's happening is we're stressed out, we're sad, and our body is saying, I want serotonin, I want dopamine, whatever, right? The brain chemicals aren't working properly. And your body knows that for a couple of minutes after that brownie, you are gonna feel a little bit better for a couple of minutes, right? So it's not your fault, right? It's just the brain chemistry is out of whack, but you can't give in to that. You have to be a step ahead of it so that you don't fall back into that addiction pattern, because it is. It's completely an addiction pattern.
Agave is not good.
Yeah, so agave is particularly bad because it's almost all fructose, and we're gonna get to fructose in a little bit. But here's the thing, there's a lot of different schools of thought on this, on sweeteners, so particularly if you look at like stevia, because stevia doesn't actually have any calories, I think, or very few calories. And same with the artificial sweeteners. And actually they've done research on this, and what happens is, for a lot of people, not everyone, but for a lot of people, your body sees any kind of sweetness as a signal to produce insulin. And so you're basically playing into that pre-diabetes thing just by having something sweet. Because your body just doesn't know the difference. It's sweet. It's like, sweet. Sweet, okay, I need to produce insulin. right? And so the key to kind of getting out of that addiction pattern is to completely eliminate it. It's gonna suck for like a week or two, depending on how much sugar you were eating before. But your best bet is to get past that addiction, because if you keep feeding it, you're just taking a step back every time, and then you have to start all over again, right? So that's what kind of like the honey does, and the agave and the stevia. You're just giving into that sweetness addiction, and then you have to, it's like, you have to go all over, you have to start all over again, right?
What about fruit?
So fruit can fall into that category for some people. So we're gonna talk about which ones are the sweetest. And the reason we will allow some fruit is that it's full of nutrients at the very least. So we're gonna talk about kind of like nutrient to sugar ratio, and if you can get like enough nutrient bang for your buck, then maybe it's worth it to have a little bit. And it's not that sugar's bad, right? We're gonna talk a little bit about how the leaner you get, the better your body uses sugar, and the more it can be useful for performance. But you have to know what your goal is. And if your goal is to lean out, this is something you're gonna have to like hone in on, okay? All right, I know, I have tough love, I have to like, and this is gonna be the hardest one for me. I'm gonna be logging my stuff. I'm a sugar and chocolate freak for the most part, so I do really well without like the grains and the dairy. I'm okay, but I don't know how I'm gonna do without the chocolate. So I don't know, I'm gonna try.
Is almond milk okay?
The first thing I would encourage you to do is try to think about why you're trying to replace the dairy. Like, why do you need dairy? That's the first question. Okay, so we'll talk about that in a little bit. But then look at the ingredients. So most almond milks do have sweetener in it. So just look for one that, and well, you have to look at more than unsweetened, because I was sitting with a client the other day and we looked at all the brands, and I think I only found one that wasn't sweetened, even the ones that said they were unsweetened. So, yeah.
Coconut milk is like meat.
Coconut milk is an option too.
Better.
Yeah.
They have,
Yeah.
They have now that looks like milk.
Yeah.
That's how I go.
Yeah. Okay, so what about grains? I know that I'm kind of, am I preaching to the choir for some of you? Like, who's off grains already? But we still have some people on grains. Okay. Okay.
You gotta start somewhere.
Yeah, you start somewhere, and we can talk about, like, you don't have to go all in, although if you put money in the pot, I would definitely recommend you go all in. So the grains. So the main concerns about the grains is that if you think about this from an evolutionary perspective, mammals, the mommy bear has to protect the baby bear, and that's like how you protect the baby bear, right? But how do plants do this? How do the mommy plants protect the baby plants? I don't know. So what they do is, plants evolved essentially like weak or minor poisons inside the seeds of the plant. So the seeds are the baby plants, right? And so that animals wouldn't eat them as much. Okay, that doesn't apply as much to fruit if they have to like propagate their seed that way. But if they actually like crunch down on the seed, so if you actually crunch down on a seed of a grain, or if you actually open it up and there's the bran and all the stuff in the grain, so you'll find things such as lectins, phytates. And in wheat in particular, gluten and gliadin, which a lot of people are super sensitive to. And all of these things are generally associated with what we call leaky gut. So if you know someone who has an autoimmune disease like celiac, Crohn's, lupus, even asthma is an autoimmune disease. And now they're saying that probably depression is MS. So any of these things, yeah. So these are all autoimmune conditions, and generally, like, the short explanation of it is that the body, these little molecules, will basically go in from your gut lining and like essentially make holes, and then it'll get into your bloodstream, and then your body will freak out because they're like, oh my God, there's like something in my bloodstream that shouldn't be there. And then you have an immune reaction to those things. And so your body starts to create antibodies, and then you get sick and you get an autoimmune condition. So these are kind of the main reasons why we want to avoid these things. Other than that, some of these things also keep you from absorbing minerals, vitamins and minerals. And so you might be having tons of grains and you've been told that you have to drink lots of milk to get your magnesium and your calcium, but as soon as you eat the grains, you're leaching it out of your bones and you're not even absorbing it anyways. So it all comes full circle. The other thing is that a lot of the grains are just really high in carbohydrates, sugar. So it just turns into sugar in your body. Like a slice of bread is like a chocolate bar. So that's kind of how you have to look at it. When you see a slice of bread, think about it like a piece of cake. And think, would I eat a piece of cake for breakfast? Would I eat 3 pieces of cake for breakfast? If I was trying to eat healthy, okay? The other thing too is it can also contribute to the balance between good bacteria and bad bacteria in your gut. So you need a balance of the good little critters and the bad little critters, and as soon as you have a lot of grains, that can get a little bit out of whack. So that's grains. I'm not like even hearing any objections. Does anyone have any questions on grains?
Well, we're not happy.
Well, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it. All right. Okay. So the next one is, I call this industrial seed oils. But the perfect example of this would be something like trans fats in like margarine, or so-called vegetable oil. That's such a ripoff, this whole idea of vegetable oil. It's not made out of vegetables, I'm just telling you. So vegetable oil is very, very highly processed, usually from grains. So you have all the same problems as you have from the grains, but it's also very highly processed. Like they use petroleum products, and you can get like some really interesting stuff on YouTube, like pictures of like mechanics using margarine for motor oil because it works just as well. That kind of stuff. So just really, really highly processed. And what you have to remember is that when you're thinking about fat, you want to balance out specific types of fat. And some types of fat we get a lot of, and some types of fat we don't. And if we get too much of one kind and not enough of another, it creates a lot of inflammation in the body. So inflammation could be joint pain, it could be bad skin, it could be mood problems if it manifests in the brain. So all of these are signs of inflammation, and also you'll see digestive issues related to bad fats too. So we want to stay away from anything that says vegetable oil, canola oil, anything that says trans fats. And also, just so you know, just if the package says no trans fats, it actually doesn't mean that there's no trans fats, because they can say no trans fats as long as there's less than like a gram, or I don't know. There can be some in there. So the fact that it says that they even have to say no trans fats should be like a red flag already, because they're probably just trying to sell it to you. So just stick with the butter and the coconut oil.
Any particular butter?
If you can, I've been looking for grass-fed. Who knows where we can find grass-fed butter? Someone told me, I talked to someone yesterday who told me that, I can't remember who it was. But yeah, just organic butter or regular butter. Ghee is a better option, especially if you're sensitive to dairy. So just clarify. You can either do it yourself or you can buy it. Superstore. Yeah, Superstore has it.
That was my question. You kind of just answered. So I did see the ghee here.
Mm-hmm.
So I can actually buy that.
Yes, and it's so good to cook with.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's really convenient to use, and it's going to be actually a better option than butter because it takes out the milk proteins, and all that's left is just the clear stuff.
Ethnic Isle Superstore.
Yeah.
For butter, should be unsalted?
It can be either or.
Either or? Okay.
Yep. So we're not, I didn't mention anything about salt. We're not taking salt out. Here's the thing, guys. As soon as you take out processed foods of your diet, your sodium intake is going to just plummet significantly, and you may find that you actually do need to add a pinch of salt to your food. Okay. We can talk a little bit more about fats later on, like which ones are best to cook with and stuff like that. Quick note, olive oil is generally a good fat, but you don't want to use it for cooking. It kind of denatures at a fairly low temperature. So it's good for salad dressings, not so good for cooking. Ghee, what's that?
It's good for baking.
Baking like oven.
Yep.
Should be okay, I don't know. Unless you're baking it at like 400 degrees. I think the cooking point was 250 or 3.
Low. It's really low.
It's low.
Avocado oil for cooking.
Better with
I would go with butter, honestly, or ghee, or coconut oil. Coconut oil is really, really good in baking because it has that like kind of sweet taste. Okay, let's go to dairy. So we already talked a little bit about that. A lot of people are allergic to it. It also creates a big blood sugar response. And it's also just really hard to get good quality dairy. Like if I had my own cow, I would so have like milk in my,
So
you know,
like organic cream.
Yeah.
Not good.
Well, here's the thing, on a regular basis, so that's one of the ones that I'm gonna give up for this challenge. I do organic whipping cream in my coffee right now because I feel like I don't react very much to it because it's quite high fat and so not much sugar, not much protein in it. But for the purposes of this challenge,
No cream?
no cream.
Ugh, gross.
I guess we're all giving up.
Which I'm okay on because I just gave up coffee last week anyways, so.
I guess I'm
But all that to say, like for the purposes of the challenge, no, we're not going to allow it. But let's say you had to choose between milk and cream, or let's say you had to choose between, what's that like? Oh, yeah, oh, the Coffee Mate and cream. Go with the cream, please, for the love of dairy. Yeah, please. Okay. All right. Beans and legumes. So similar argument to the grains, a lot of anti-nutrient contents. And you're going to see that a lot of ancient, very healthy ancient cultures do really well on some beans and legumes. So things like soy and lentils and peanuts are actually legumes. So the Japanese do really well and they do a lot of soy. So that's like an argument, right, that a lot of people will give why you should eat soy. But in the traditional cultures, they actually soak it and ferment it for extremely long time because that's the only way that it's not toxic. So, and you especially want to watch out for that if you've got any hormonal issues, especially the ladies, any estrogen issues. Stay away from any beans and legumes, and particularly the soy. Very estrogenic.
You say beans, do you mean green beans as well?
Green. It is a good question. It's a really good question. So if you really wanted to be strict about it, you wouldn't allow it. But for this challenge, I think it's fine. I'm just happy to see people eating green things.
What about popcorn? Is that
green popcorn?
Yeah, good question, Leonie. Corn? Do you guys know that corn's a grain and not a vegetable? Okay, so no corn, no popcorn.
You know, corn would have been okay.
And it's like, you know, oh, yeah, Miguel.
What do you think of extra old cheese?
If we weren't doing the challenge, yes, I would have extra old cheese. But for this challenge, it's not allowed. No cheese. But if you were going to choose a cheese, usually extra old is a good way to go because when they age it, you lose most of the lactose in it. So if you're sensitive to it, you're going to do better. Like if you're lactose intolerant, you can actually do like 5-year-old yummy cheddar. But for this challenge, no go.
Sounds yummy.
After the challenge, you can put it back in. Okay.
Any cheese, like goat cheese.
Yeah. Well, like I said, you know, I'm not going to be the police, but. So the other thing about beans and legumes is that a lot of people think that it's normal. It's like, oh, I have gas when I eat beans. And here's the thing, when you eat really well for your body, you have very little gas. And I just wanted to put that out there because a lot of people think that it's like a necessary part of life. But it's not. You know, when you eat really well and your body and your gut bacteria is good, you don't get much of that. And so my take on beans and legumes is that if I react like that, I probably shouldn't be eating that. Like, that's not cool, right?
Don't fart.
No, I'm not saying I don't fart. I fart. Oh my God, I can't believe I just said that on camera. Ah!
They're gonna bleep it. It's okay.
But no, but if someone gives you, if something that you eat gives you a lot of gastrointestinal distress, maybe you should consider taking it out of your diet. That's my point. Is that like, that's reasonable, right? Okay.
Fiber, like additional fiber.
Good question. So, additional fiber, you get most of your fiber, you can get all from vegetables. You're actually going to get way better fiber from vegetables. So that's a big mistake people make on paleo, is they may not have enough vegetables. So you got to make sure that you are getting a lot of vegetables. You also want to maybe add some roots and tubers, you know, things like rutabaga, parsnip, because that has nice soluble fiber. And actually, humans really don't need that much insoluble fiber. You know, the roughage type stuff. And for a lot of people, it actually really messes up their intestines. So if someone has like IBS or Crohn's or something like that, we actually take all of that fiber out because they need to rebuild their gut lining. So you're better off with soluble fiber, which you'll get from a lot of the roots and the tubers and stuff like that. And it won't rip your intestines, and so it won't be so rough going down. Sweet potatoes, so that would count as a root or a tuber. It's actually very different than a potato. Yeah.
So it's good?
Yep.
But no potatoes?
So potatoes are no-go mostly because of the saponins and the lectins in the peel. If you're really lean already and you really need to get some carbs in, like if you're a guy and you're under 10% or a female under 15%, you go ahead and have some potatoes without the skin.
Fried in coconut oil.
But other than that, we want to avoid it because it has a lot of the same ingredients as the grain. So the peel in the potatoes has saponins, which your body reacts to, really similar to the grains.
And that's sweet potato included?
Sweet potato does, well, usually people don't have it with the peel. It is a little bit higher carb, so you want to keep that for when you feel you need those carbohydrates. But they're really high in nutrients and high in fiber. And most people do pretty well on them. Yeah. Quinoa is a grain, a fruit that acts like a grain. So it has all the same like defense mechanisms as the grains do. So we'll count it as a grain. Okay.
Yes.
So I saw this like on Facebook and I thought it was hilarious. So can I eat that? Did it have a face? Yes, it's paleo. No. Is it a fruit or a vegetable? Yes. Is it corn? Yes, corn is a grain, knucklehead. Anyways, you guys can kind of look through that a little bit. I just thought it was a good kind of thought process, a good illustration of the thought process.
I like the bottom one.
Would it have a face if you didn't pull it from a nest? Okay. Yes.
No, it's really
It's an egg. You can eat it. Are there any good ones? Okay, is it sweet potatoes? Actually, it does say here, don't eat unless you're skinny. So the reason it says that is because they are fairly high in carbohydrates. Anyways,
Coconut avocado.
this is kind of for entertainment purposes. But the point here is I want you guys to feel empowered and educated to make your own decisions. So you can ask all the questions that you want. We're happy to answer them. But what's cool is if you can have the tools to make your own decisions as to what's better, this or that. So always think about, again, like we said, having something in the least processed form. So someone often will ask me, well, isn't it better to just eat egg whites? Because there's less fat in the egg whites. What's more processed? An egg that you've already taken half of it out, or an egg as it came? Right? So there's the answer to your question. What's less processed? The whole egg. So that's why that's a better option. I'm trying to think of another example. Yep.
Just buying eggs is like a challenge in itself because you've got the eggs that say it's better for you and buy me.
Look, if you're on a budget, buy whatever. That's fine, you know.
Eggs and eggs.
if you can splurge a little bit, and you know of a farmer who actually, you know, has nice pastured chickens who aren't like, you know, like, oh, sorry, that's a good option. You can also go omega-3. That's always a nice option, because then you can increase the omega-3 content in your eggs. So that's a good option too. But you know what? Try not to stress over those little details. Yeah.